How much clearer can I say? There's always money in the banana stand! No touch, no touch!
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am sportslogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Helmet Sunday Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most fun, one of the wackiest brands that there is in all of baseball at any level, the Savannah Bananas. And I'm very happy to be joined by Jesse Cole, who is the owner of the Savannah Bananas. Jesse, thank you for being here.
Fired up to be with you, my friend.
Oh man, me too. I am so looking forward to this conversation. But Jesse, I have to admit, normally I research this sort of, one of the things I love about minor league baseball is the hyper local connections that these teams have to their communities and where these names come from. And I have to admit, it's been sort of a crazy morning, right? Like the kids wouldn't eat their wet food. I was late getting the cat to school. So it's been a little bit of a wild morning. So I've got a couple different intros ready, and you can just tell me sort of when I hit the one that's right for why the Savannah Bananas are called the Savannah Bananas. And then we'll just, as they say, we'll just fix it in post. Is that cool?
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So as you know, Savannah, Georgia is home to the United States' largest swaths of banana fields. I'm really happy to be talking to Jesse about, Jesse, am I on the right track here?
So no, You're actually completely inaccurate there. We actually got criticized so badly because we don't have bananas at all in Savannah.
Oh, so it's not that. All right. So, all right. Well, I've got another one. Stand by. It's okay. In Savannah, Georgia, researchers are working round the clock to genetically engineer the yellowest banana at the USBI, the United States Banana Institute.
No, sorry. Unfortunately, that's not true at all either. Oh,
all right. Well, normally I've gotten it by now. So let me just, if you would, just give me one more shot at this, and then we'll go ahead with the interview, because I'm pretty sure now that I have it here. So Savannah, Georgia was the site of the bloodiest war in the Civil War, the famous Battle of Banana Hill, which after Union soldiers and Confederate soldiers.
I'm impressed you found that, but that is actually completely inaccurate as well.
Jesse, all right. Well, you know what? Listen, normally I don't do this, but would you mind just telling me why the bananas are called the Bananas?
I love that. So like every team in the country, we do a name the team contest, but I was very, very, very specific. We want something dramatically different, not like anything else. We don't want to be a generic animal like everyone else. And so what do we get? 1,000 suggestions and 999 generic normal suggestions, except for one that was a little crazy. When we saw it, we knew that we could really have fun with this brand and make it something so much different than anyone else. And also we knew it could fit Savannah, because Savannah is a quirky, unique, different, artsy, creative city. And if people would just give us a chance, that this name would fit this city, which took some time, but now fortunately it's really worked out.
And so, but the actual reason the team is called the Bananas, obviously, is that banana rhymes with Savannah.
That's
right?
What everyone said. Everyone said, did you just choose it because it rhymed? Obviously, it rolls off the tongue and sounds well. But I think what we did that most teams don't do, we don't just think of a fun name. We thought of a brand of things we can do 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. And we knew that it'd be so different. And we're trying to make baseball fun. This name could really make that difference. So yeah, we have so many things with bananas that we haven't even come close to doing with our team yet. And that's what's exciting. And I don't think many brands can do that, play the long game there.
Well, you've really lived up to the name, right? And you even have, and I'll just ask you to explain it for me. Can you tell me what is Banana Ball?
So Banana Ball is the new game that we invented, started playing behind closed doors back in 2018. So, long story short, 6 years ago, my wife and I were sleeping on an airbed. We only sold 2 tickets in our first 3 months. We were not yet the Savannah Bananas, but no one gave us a chance. They said, you guys are going to be like everyone else. We overdrafted our account. We were just down to our last dollar. We came to Bananas. We finally started to get some attention. And then we played that first game in front of a sold out crowd. They wanted to see us probably fail. And unfortunately, we were wearing green uniforms because we weren't quite ripe. And the team actually made 6 errors, and they lived up to that. And we lost.
That's kind of perfect.
Yeah, we lost badly. But the Banana Nanas danced on the field in the rain while we were in a rain delay. And 4,000 fans stayed till the end of the game because they wanted to see what was going to happen. And after that point, they saw the breakdancing coaches and the dancing players and the banana baby that we had that we lifted up and saying, "Nah, Savannah," that they told everyone. And lo and behold, since that day, we've sold out every single game and have a wait list for tickets over 12,000. So how did that all happen? Where did Banana Ball come into play? We were watching our fans. And in the weird way, everyone's, "Oh, you watch your fans." We take videos and pictures every 30 minutes of our grandstand to see when fans are getting up, when they're leaving. And we started realizing, even with tickets being scalped for over $100, and USA Today, a big store, people are paying $150, $200 on tickets to Bananas games. People were still leaving early. So we said, we got to come up with a faster game. So in 2018, we tested a faster game, Banana Ball, 2-hour time game. Batters can't step out of the batter's box. You can steal first. There's no bunting. There's no walks. And if fans catch a foul ball, it's an out. And we tested it. And now we're taking it all over the country. And it's amazing. We've sold out almost every city we've gone to months in advance. And we're expecting to sell out every game on this Banana Ball World Tour.
How many cities are you visiting on this world tour?
We're just doing 7 this year. We'll go to 15 to 20 next year. But we started with a 1-city world tour in Mobile the year before. And crazily 7,000 tickets sold in 24 hours. And the support's been great.
So what do you attribute that to? Is it the actual game of Banana Ball, or is this brand that has sort of taken hold on social media? What is it about these barnstorming bananas games that are selling out?
Well, I think it started from, every game in Savannah sold out. We're already sold out for next season in Savannah. So it's really that kind of the brand building. We're just obsessed with our fans. And I say that, we are fanatic about our fans. There's no ticket fees, no convenient fees. We have no shipping fees. In Savannah, every ticket's all inclusive. You can't come in our ballpark without getting your burgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches, soda, water, popcorn, dessert for $20. And we have 55 promotions before the game even starts.
Right.
We have a full march, we have parades, we have weigh-ins between both teams. It's just ridiculous. And so luckily now on TikTok, we have almost 300,000 more followers than any Major League Baseball team. So
wow.
We're about to hit 1 million followers. So I think the brand has really taken a life of its own. And, every fan that buys a ticket from us, they get a thank you call. And when we put World Tour tickets on sale, we sold almost 20,000 tickets. It is completely unscalable. We now have almost 30 staff members and we were calling all day, but it's that attention to detail, that obsession with the fans. And I think they're, becoming big fans of us.
So how, you're in the Coastal Plain League.
That's one of our teams. Our professional team plays Banana Ball, and that's the future of the Bananas. That's really where we're going. But the college team, they won the championship again last year, and they obviously compete tremendously well.
And then that's by the traditional rules.
Yep.
Okay. But the professional team that plays Banana Ball, has there been an adjustment for the players? Like, is there ever at that moment where a fan catches a foul ball and they're out and they don't realize it?
I'll never forget. It was the second game of Banana Ball last year on our tour. And with Bananas were rallying, it was the 5th inning. We had runners on first and second. We were down in the game, and our catcher hit a line drive foul ball into our beer deck. And a guy tried to protect himself and caught the ball, and it ended the inning. And the whole stadium started booing him. We brought a police officer up to him to jokingly escort him out of the stadium. Yeah. It was bad. The catch was like, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? And It ended our rally. So you never know what to expect in a Banana Ball game. And that was definitely a crazy moment.
That is wild. So this brand that you have, right, for, what started as a collegiate summer level team, right? You made the decision that you're going to go with this high-end design firm, Studio Simon in Louisville, Kentucky. I should mention, by the way, that Dan Simon created the logo for my podcast, which I am absolutely in love with. So I know firsthand how the great work that Dan does. But the decision to go with a really high-end design firm and to create this sort of serious logo for this very whimsical brand, what was the thinking behind that?
We were crazy. We didn't have literally we had zero money. We had $0. I'm not joking. When my wife and I, we would go grocery shopping with just $30 every week. That's all we had. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the team members were saying, Jesse, we can't afford to go with the high end. And I said, guys, we have to find the money. We can't afford not to. We're making a unique brand. We're making a fun brand. We have to. And luckily, Dan worked with us a little bit, but we didn't have the money. We didn't have it. Mm-hmm. And, but we found a way to do it. But the big thing I realized is that this is such a fun name, such a unique brand. We have to make it that people are proud, both players and fans, to wear it. Because most people say a banana, it's a fruit, that's soft. Literally we have Dolce & Banana underwear at our ballpark now. We do things that are so silly and fun. we had to like that logo. And Dan will always say it, that the way that I instructed him with it is that we needed to make the banana bad. You know, I don't know if we cuss on this, but I wanted to be a fierce looking banana.
I think you could say badass banana on here.
All right. That was what I instructed him over and over again. And I wanted to be a badass banana with fun colors. I wanted fun tropical colors, and I wanted to stand out. And he nailed it. He absolutely. We made one change. He had the banana batting lefty. We made the banana batting righty. And other than that, it was game over for when we announced it.
Well, and so now so much has changed in the court. I'll start by saying, you know, the Savannah Sands Gnats left town.
Yeah,
they were an affiliated team. They moved. They're now the Columbia Fireflies. They had a fun brand, but they essentially left town over apathy, right? Like they weren't drawing and
lack of support. Yes.
Yeah, they did not have a lot of support. So they left, and then there was a brief interlude, and then you all came on the scene in the mid 2010s, 2015, right?
Correct. Fall of 2015. Yes.
Okay. So 2015, you come on board, you have the collegiate summer level team, and now you have this professional traveling team that plays banana ball. What's next? What's coming next with this brand? I mean, it keeps growing by leaps and bounds, and every time you look up, there's something different happening.
Yeah, expect the unexpected with us. I mean, literally on February 25th, 2020, 2 weeks before the pandemic was announced, we eliminated all of our sponsorship in our ballpark. So we literally threw away hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is probably the worst business decision you could ever do before a pandemic. But we believe so much in our fans, and we believe that no one comes to a ballpark to be sold to, marketed to, or advertised to. We are obsessed with the fan experience. And what's happened since that point is amazing. Our merchandise is now doing 5 times what we did in sponsorship revenue. We're doing hundreds of orders every single day all over the world. And I think it's because of that obsession and fanatic about the fans. So we will invent on behalf of our fans. This is something that Jeff Bezos made brilliant as far as Amazon. You know, they were a book company selling books, and then they kept going where their fans want to go. For us, it's simple. We make baseball fun, and we believe we're going to take the tour all over the world. We're going to build Banana Land here. A stadium that's the most fun ballpark in the world, with zip lines across the field and trains and breweries and you name it. We have it all designed here, tree houses. It's going to be outrageous. And I think that's our Disneyland. And so when we're very clear, we are not for baseball traditionalists.
Are you hearing from the baseball traditionalists? Are you getting, criticized out there, or do you just hear that and just let it wash off your back?
We've been criticized since day one here. October 5th, 2015, when we first showed up, you guys are going to fail. You'll never sell a ticket. You're an embarrassment to the city. And yes, we lose season ticket holders every year that are traditionalists. Fortunately, that season ticket wait list is over 5,000 in itself, so we're okay. But baseball traditionalists said it's too much of a circus. It's too much. There's too much craziness. What are you guys doing? I mean, our players introduce themselves coming up to bat. We play in kilts. It's about fun and making the game fun. And what's amazing is the players play better because they have fun. So if we're not getting criticized, we're playing it too safe. And so my goal is for us to continue to do things that may get criticized, because I know we're pushing the boundaries on what can be done.
So, well, I was going to ask you about the players as well, right? Like, I mean, obviously you're bringing in players who are used to playing a certain game and have been told to, probably their whole life have been told to hit a home run and drop the bat and put their head down and run around the bases. And you're asking them to flip that on its head. You're asking them to get out there and make themselves the center of attention and have a great time and really like celebrate with the fans and interact directly with the fans, which is not always something that you see. How has that transition been for your players?
It was very tough at first, obviously. I mean, guys were like, I'm not doing this. This is not what I'm about. I'm here to play baseball. But fortunately, I think everything's based on recognition. And our fans recognize the players for the fun they have, not necessarily hitting 2 doubles or striking out 10 guys in a start. And so at every game, what's big different for us is at the end of the game, every single player goes out to the front plaza with our pep band, with our characters, Princess Potassia, the Bananas, the male cheerleading team. Everybody is thanking the fans, and the fans are dancing with them and signing autographs. And they're talking about the amazing moments, the things they did during the game that had nothing to do with baseball. When they came and delivered a rose to their little daughter during a game, when they're getting their kids to sign their hats. So literally our players get autographs of little kids on the players' hats. So it's just a complete flip of the way it is. And because of that, now the guys, and the fact that, this past summer, we had over 75 million views on TikTok of them doing things they haven't done before. And then SportsCenter and the ESPN shows, I think they're all in on it. And we attract those players that have showmanship and have fun and understand that it's a game and it's supposed to be fun. It isn't supposed to be serious and corporate, like unfortunately some of the highest levels have become.
Yeah. Well, and so you've dovetailed, you mentioned ESPN, you mentioned some of the media attention that you're getting. You're, this is an audio podcast right now, but you are wearing a yellow suit with a yellow hat and a yellow shirt, and you are decked out. You've got that gigantic Savannah Bananas logo behind you, by the way, which I love. That thing looks like it must be 6 feet tall. Can I order one of those for the recording studio here? That would be fantastic.
It would look good back there.
It would look really good back here. So what I was going to ask you about was the amount of media attention that you're getting, and the amount of your time that you spend talking to essentially high-end, media platforms out there, obviously way more than any other collegiate summer level team. What are some of the bigger media platforms where you've appeared?
Oh, geez, we've been so fortunate. I mean, CBS came down last year. Obviously, ESPN's done 2 features on us. We had MSNBC down here. CNN's been down here. Entrepreneur Magazine did a full story. And now we're very close to a 6-episode series on a big network that's going to be announced pretty soon. So it's really taken a life of its own. And I think, we're fortunate, but it's really 15 plus years. I mean, I started in Gastonia trying things in grandma beauty pageants and flatulence fun nights and salute to underwear nights. And a lot of them that didn't work well. Yeah, it's 15 years of the journey of trying and testing and experimenting. And every single night at our ballpark, we do 5 to 6 promotions we've never done in front of a live crowd. When you have 50 plus games, that's 300 plus promotions. That's brand new. And so we're experimenting and testing faster than any team in the country. So we're getting to push the envelope, and media has really been all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. I asked Dan Simon about, when I interviewed him, I just did a deep dive with Dan. There was a whole episode with Dan talking about his work. And I said, which logo do you think you are best known for? And he sort of turned the question on its head a little bit. And he said, well, the logo that I've done that is probably the best known is the Savannah Bananas. And he pointed to all of this media attention. And this was specifically within minor league baseball, right? But he's done AAA teams. I mean, he's done countless minor league baseball teams, almost 100 different minor league baseball teams. And he pointed to the Bananas as the one that's gotten the most sort of recognition out there, a collegiate summer level team and a barnstorming banana ball team. What is it about the logo that, I know it's, partially this brand and this marketing that you all are doing, but what about the logo is it that's been so successful?
Well, I give Dan a tremendous amount of credit. I mean, before we were even a brand, the amount of orders we did the first night it came out, people just identified it. As much as people ripped us and said that's the dumbest name I've ever heard of, no one ripped the logo. And we had hundreds of people criticizing us about how dumb and silly and stupid the name was. Not one person criticized the logo. And, I've heard that. I mean, we were just on Amazon Reacher, a huge show that's taken off, and their producer wanted 2 of our shirts, and one of their characters is wearing our shirts. And he says, I love the brand, love what you guys doing, but I absolutely love the logo. And Dan nailed it. And I think what Dan does, that's so good and so good for this industry. I probably talked to Dan more in 2 months than I did to my wife. Dan was literally like, he'll talk to you for an hour and a half, and I love it. But Jesse, I need to know this, I need to know this, I need to know this. And he gets to understand what's behind the logo and what we're trying to do. And that was so impressive with Dan. And he nailed it. And it's going to be tough. Most teams in like 10, 15, 20 years, they go to retro logos, they change logos. We'll have to alternate a little bit, but I can't see how we can run away from that, because it's what he's done is absolutely amazing.
Never. Yeah. He does such good work, and he's always been so generous with his time talking to me. So, and I'm about to talk to him next here on this episode. Jesse, thank you so much for joining me. This brand is so much fun, and it's, such an amazing story. And I'm so happy to be able to feature you guys on the podcast, because it's been one of my favorites. And so I appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. I know the Bananas are easy to find. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh, I spend all my time on LinkedIn. So I share the journey of the business lessons we learned. And I share my first book, Find Your Yellow Tux, and then my second book coming out in May, Fans First. So all that, I'm on LinkedIn, very easy to find.
The names of your books again, say them again.
The first book that came out 4 years ago, Find Your Yellow Tux, How to Be Successful by Standing Out. And then the one coming out May 17th, which I can't wait, Fans First. Change the game, break the rules, create an unforgettable experience.
Fantastic. And those are available all the places?
Everywhere.
Jesse, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And I'm going to absolutely look into those books. I appreciate you letting me know about them.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
All right, Jesse, take care. Hi there, everyone. Welcome back. It's such a pleasure now to have on the podcast for the first time, the first interview that we've recorded since Dan created the amazing logo that accompanies my podcast now. So before we get started talking about the Savannah Bananas, Dan, I just want to say one more time, thank you so much for this amazing logo that you created for Baseball by Design. Out of generosity and the goodness of your heart and this amazing skill and attention to detail, it was so much fun to work with you on that process. And I want to do an episode where we just talk about that logo, right? I want to do a segment where we talk about the work that went into that logo. But for right now, before we talk about the Savannah Bananas, let me say on the record officially, to your face, thank you again for that amazing logo that got a huge reaction on social media. Well,
of course, you were very, very welcome. Amazing podcasts need amazing logos.
That is way too kind, but I appreciate it. And I'm so happy now to be talking to you about the Savannah Bananas, which are just taking the world by storm right there. This amazing brand that you've created is just really, I'm seeing it everywhere, right? I mean, I did not know, I did not have forewarning when I was watching the Amazon Prime TV show Reacher that one of the characters was going to be wearing a Savannah, not just a Savannah Bananas t-shirt, but two Savannah Bananas t-shirts, one of which I actually own. He was wearing the same Bananas t-shirt that I had worn just a couple of days prior. So your Bananas logo is everywhere.
When you say two t-shirts, I'm assuming not at the same time.
No, in episode 1, he had the sort of two-tone baseball style shirt where it was the Savannah Bananas text with the logo sort of smaller underneath it. And then in episode 5, he was wearing the gray t-shirt with the big logo on it, which is the one that I have and wear all the time and would be wearing right now had I not just worn it a couple of days ago when I interviewed Jesse Cole for this podcast.
Well, just out of curiosity, I did not see the show that you're talking about. Did the fact that he was wearing two different t-shirts on two different occasions, did it have anything to do with the show, or it just happened to be what he was wearing and he was wearing them twice?
I think so. I know from having just talked to Jesse that the show actually reached out to him, that they reached out to the team to request a couple of t-shirts. And I think it was just to establish this character as someone like me who is very fashionable and wears minor league baseball t-shirts all the time. So it's the show is set in Georgia, and he was sort of a young, unsure of himself, sort of funny character who is he's a coroner, is slightly nervous coroner, right? Like, and so I think it was just meant to be sort of part of his character, as he's the sort of person who'd be a coroner who wears a goofy minor league baseball shirt. So
yeah, I wouldn't associate that logo with what a coroner wears.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's fun.
It made it very funny. So this obviously, when we did our deep dive episode and I asked you what was the logo that people associate you most closely with, you identified this one as being not necessarily one that people associate you with, because not everyone makes that connection between the logo and the designer. But you said that this one was perhaps your best known logo, and now even better so that it's been featured on a national streaming TV show. So I'll just ask you to go back to the drawing board here. What was your process when you were charged with creating what Jesse Cole has described as a badass banana?
Well, what you just said, that was it. That, even though when Jesse first contacted me, we talked at length. What it all came down to seriously was a one word or two words with a hyphen, I guess, brief. He, at the very end of what was otherwise a pretty long conversation, during which I ask all the questions or the types of questions I ask every team with which I work. He just says, you know what, this needs to be a badass banana. And so that badass was the creative brief. And it was a brief, and that really informed everything that we did.
Creating this banana, you had to take a serious approach to creating what ultimately was a fairly silly concept for a logo. As a serious graphic designer who does serious work, how does that affect your process when you have to approach it seriously. I mean, it's like a comedian who plays it straight, and that's what makes it funny. How do you approach, okay, I'm a serious graphic designer and I've got to create a badass banana?
Well, yeah, I'm a serious graphic designer in that this is what I do for a living. But the reality is, what it turns out I do most of the time for a living are silly things. I'm anthropomorphizing I've anthropomorphized virtually everything. Bananas, ears of corn. I'm just looking around at some of these logos. Clouds for the Trenton Thunder, lightning bolts, nuts, and on and on and on. So it's I've got to do a good job and create professional artwork with it, but it's professionally creating something silly. And so that's really the approach. Just do the best artwork possible in a fun way.
So I know that part of your process is often, understanding and even helping the teams come up with names that are significant to the local community. Jesse and I were kind of joking about, essentially, I mean, that the name Bananas relates to the overall attitude they have towards this baseball team, or the baseball teams that they have that play under this brand. But in terms of creating this logo, there isn't really a connection. Like Savannah, Georgia, apart from the fact that it rhymes, there isn't really a connection to the local community specifically. So did that create any kind of challenge for you to create a brand that wasn't really connected to the local place in that way, like many usually are?
No, it didn't create an issue at all. So many of like you just mentioned, so many of the identities that I have done and that others have done for minor league baseball do indeed have a connection to the local community in which those teams play. But not all of them do. Like, think about, the Durham Bulls. What does a bowl have to do with Durham, other than maybe they're, back when that identity was originally created, there are farms that have livestock. So, but no, it didn't create any issues with it. And what's interesting about it, you can say bananas have nothing to do with Savannah, but because of what Jesse has created with this team, I would think that a lot of people associate bananas with Savannah, because it's become such a phenomenon. People, like you mentioned, it's on a TV show where they specifically requested that T-shirt. They've sold merchandise not only to people in all of the 50 states, but beyond, numerous countries. They're doing, I would imagine, maybe when you spoke with Jesse, he mentioned this, they're doing what they call a world tour, although it's not, they're barnstorming in effect. And now, even though they call it a world tour, it's the United States, but I would not be surprised that if they ultimately take this to other countries. Matter of fact, if I were a betting man, I would bet that that's going to happen. So, so this is, bananas are now something I would imagine that if not actually associated with, that people associate with Savannah, the Savannah Bananas have become such a thing in Savannah that I don't know that people look at it as something that it's like, why bananas? It's like, now you don't even think of it. It's just associated with the, Savannah is kind of a very unique city. And this is certainly, the bananas are certainly a unique product. So it just fits in perfectly with Savannah, Georgia.
So this episode is going to drop on March 29. And so the Bananas will be in the middle of their world tour. And coming up next on this episode, I'm actually speaking with a gentleman who goes by the Young Professor, and he is going to be doing some public address work. He's sort of an announcer, MC kind of guy, and so he's going to be doing some work on that world tour itself. So the world tour obviously has become a big part of this brand and this team, and it's really, to me, it's really interesting to see that, first of all, they've got the collegiate summer level team that plays by the sort of traditional rules of baseball, but this, what they're calling Banana Ball, and has been essentially branded with this logo that you created, is this completely wackadoodle version of the game, right? That, has different rules, and the players are announcing themselves. And, if a fan catches a ball, it's an out. And so this brand that you created in a lot of ways is becoming associated with more than just a baseball team. It's becoming associated with this sort of baseball phenomenon out there, this new game that they're even creating. So there's no question there. I was just commenting on that. So it was, you mentioned the world tour, and it sent me off on a tangent there. But the thing that strikes me about this brand is to me how easy it would have been to double down on the silly name and to create a silly logo. And with everything about this identity, except for the fact that it's a banana, it's not silly at all, right? Like it's, we've used the phrase badass bananas, but even like the color palette has, to me, sort of a refined feeling. It's got the bright yellow, and then this sort of subdued green, and then the dark blue. The type is not over the top silly or anything like that. It's sort of a, traditional kind of tropical feeling, almost script that you used. So you made a lot of design decisions that were decidedly not silly. And clearly that's intentional. Was there the inclination to work silly when you first started on this?
No, and I'm really glad you asked that question, because when I said earlier about how I do silly things, when it's brought to me by the particular team, in this case, when Jesse brought it to me, yeah, it's a silly idea. But the reality is this, and well, I'll finish my sentence. This is baseball played by, this is a sport played by talented athletes. And there is a serious component to it. This is baseball. Those players have worked very hard to be as good as they can possibly be at their craft. So yeah, there's a silly component to it, but I look at it as my job to present it in a way, present the silly idea in a way that's not silly. And I'll give you, this is something that it didn't start with the Savannah Bananas. I think about 15 years ago, I did the Modesto Nuts identity. Mm-hmm. And when the team came to me with this name, I didn't name them the Nuts. They came to me with the name, as was the case with the Savannah Bananas. I did not come up with that name. That was Jesse. With the Modesto Nuts, I was told, I didn't speak directly with the team owner. I was speaking with the general manager, Mike Garassi, who is now, I believe, the president of that team. And he said, what the owner wants is, he wants to do with this identity what Disney did with Goofy. And now picture Goofy. I'm sure everyone knows what Goofy looks like. He looks goofy. He's got big clown size shoes that he wears. He's got, I believe he has buck teeth. He is goofy looking and very aptly named. And what I explained to Mike at that time was, minor league baseball does have something in common with Disney, and that's the fun family component of it. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that minor league baseball has that Disney doesn't is the professional athlete component of it. Now, of course, collegiate summer league teams are not professional athletes, but they are athletes, and mm-hmm. many of them will, I would imagine, will become professional athletes. Mm-hmm. And what I explained to Mike at that time is, please tell your owner that what I recommend doing with this is taking what's otherwise a silly name and presenting it in a way where there's some attitude to it that's not goofy, but it ties this now to sports. Because this is going to be played by athletes who are serious about what they're doing. And even with all of the theatrics and fun that go on at a Savannah Bananas game, at least when they're playing in the Coastal Plain League schedule, they're trying to win. And by the way, I believe they've won now two league championships, including this past season. So you need to bring something, I'll use the word professional, into the identity. And so that's what I did back then with the Modesto Nuts. And that's what I try to do with every otherwise silly idea that is presented to me by teams, is to have fun with it, but also present it professionally. And you mentioned the typography. It's a baseball team, so I wanted to do lettering that was consistent with the look of baseball. Now, the actual script that I developed for that has a little bit of a softer feeling, a little bit of curviness to it. And I did that because it's the Bananas. I wanted, just the name and a banana itself. I wanted to give it a little bit, I wanted it to still be typography that worked with the logo artwork.
Yeah, the typography, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you can say it in so many ways that are better than what I could say, but the typography is spot on, right? Like, I mean, because that typography looks like obviously perfect for a baseball team, but could also be used on packaging for a banana cream pie or something, right? Like, it's got a sort of soft banana-y feeling about it, like you described. Yes,
you put that very well. That was the feeling and the look I was trying to achieve. And apparently, based on what you just said, it seems like I achieved what I set out to achieve.
Well, you certainly did. And you mentioned the Coastal Plain League and these collegiate summer level players, who many of them have a choice of where they want to play. I know Chris Creamer once told me that he asked a major league player, if everything else was equal, would they use a team's logo as a tiebreaker in where to sign as a free agent? And the major league player said no. But I wonder at the collegiate summer level league, when you're talking about young athletes who have lots of choices as to where they might play during the summertime, is a team like the Savannah Bananas that has this now very popular logo, and before it was popular, it was very cool logo. I mean, not that it's not still cool, but even before it became popular, people saw it and really enjoyed it. I wonder if they have a better time, attracting talented players and winning these championships because they have this awesome brand.
Well, I couldn't say for sure, but I can tell you, well, first of all, I just want to make sure that all the listeners out there understand that even though I'd like to think I did a good job with the creation of this identity, the phenomenon that this team has become is Jesse Cole and the people who work with him and for him. So kudos to all of them. That's not about me. That was and so when if you've seen any of the videos that the Savannah Bananas put out, those players are having so much fun. They're being asked to do some goofy stuff, but boy, they seem to be enjoying doing it. And so I would imagine that right there is incentive for anybody. If you're going to play collegiate summer league ball, I'd want to play for the Savannah Bananas because you're going to have a great summer. The other thing is, now with regard to what part I may have played in it, I remember Jesse telling me the first season. Now keep in mind the phenomenon that they have become, and I'm sorry for using that word so many times. I just don't know how else to describe it.
It's the appropriate word. Absolutely. Right.
Who knows how quickly that happened. But he said even in the first season, opposing players would go into the team store because they wanted merchandise. So that was before, they were on ESPN, and that was before they did their world tour. So I'd like to think that the merchandise was appealing to,
as it were,
just the fans and the people in the community, but the players as well. And so I would love to think that a really fun, cool logo does matter to the players, but per the story you told, it doesn't always.
Well, I would say this, of all the baseball logos out there, this one certainly does have appeal.
I see what you did there.
Sorry, no, that's a slippery slope. I won't do that. So.
Oh, there you go.
So just one last question on the Bananas, and then I'll let you get out of here. The Bananas, I'm going to use the word that you've used, phenomenon, right? It is a phenomenon. The Bananas replaced an affiliated team that's now the Columbia Fireflies. They replaced the Savannah Sand Gnats. And that was one of those logos, kind of like the Skeeters, right? That sort of played up on this idea of highlighting, something in the local community, but something sort of hateful in the local community, right? Like sand gnats are awful. So that team left out of, the way I've described it is just basically apathy, right? Like the fans just sort of lost interest and stopped going, and the team itself didn't seem to care that much about the fan experience. And, so when the Bananas came to town and Jesse knew that he was going to create this amazing fan experience, and they knew to turn to a high-end designer to create something that was going to be appropriate to the experience that they're trying to create, the fact that it has become a phenomenon, I think, defies all expectations and odds, because they came in at a lower level than the team that had left. And I don't think anyone would have predicted that this team would have become the phenomenon that it is. And so I certainly think that, that this brand that you created is absolutely a part of that. And, I don't know if you could have possibly known that while you were creating it, but now that it has become that, I would think it has to be really edifying as a designer to see this brand. I asked you once on one of our previous interviews, I'm doing my long question thing again, by the way. This one I promise will end in an actual question, though. To see this brand now and what it has become, you couldn't possibly have known that while you were working on it. But are you surprised that of all the things that you've created, this is the one that has sort of blown up the way that it has?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a surprise. What you mentioned about the apathy of either the team or the fans or both in Savannah, the sand gnats, even though it was a sand gnat as a pest, it was a fairly popular identity. Mm-hmm. Despite an otherwise popular identity, Savannah was at the bottom of the league attendance standings, if you want to call them that, for years. They could not draw a crowd. And when Jesse contacted me, as much as I loved, right away, as soon as he told me Savannah Bananas, this big smile just came on my face, and I just couldn't wait to get started on the project. It was perfect. But I'm being completely honest about this, I felt a little bad taking his money because I thought it was, I didn't think the team was going to make it because it was quote unquote just collegiate summer ball. So as you mentioned, it's below low minor league baseball. If I'm not mistaken, the Sand Gnats were a low A team. And so this is lower than one of the lowest levels of minor league baseball. And I knew that their attendance was so poor. And I was thinking, I don't really see how you're going to make it. Now, later, I found out who not who Jesse Cole was, but what Jesse Cole, and I want to give credit to everyone else who's there. Okay, I just want to make sure that it can't all be Jesse Cole, but heck, he's the ringleader. I found out what he did and what he does, and I with the benefit of hindsight, I'm not surprised at its success, but I was not expecting what it has become, not at all.
Well, it certainly has become entrenched in the minor league baseball community, one of the most popular ones out there. And I appreciate, Dan, you coming on and taking the time out of your morning to talk to me about the Bananas. I always love our conversations and never know where they're going to go. This one, as always, was a lot of fun. People can find you online at studiosimon.net and on Instagram at studio_Simon. Are there any other socials or online resources where people can find you?
That's it. I try to I play a little hard to get, so that's all I put out there.
Well, the day that you decide to join Twitter's going to explode. That's going to just you wait. Dan, thank you. I appreciate it, and I look forward to having you back on the podcast again soon.
Well, thanks for having me on again, and I'm looking forward to the next one as well.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Very excited to be joined now by Matt Grafer, who you know as the young professor. Matt, you're the on-field host for the Daytona Tortugas, which is great. And the reason you're here now talking to me now is because you're going to be on the Banana Ball tour with the Savannah Bananas, their traveling team. And in fact, when this episode drops, we're going to be like halfway through it. So you and I are recording this before you guys set sail here. So I'll ask you, first of all, now that, this is dropping when we're halfway through the tour, how's the tour going so far?
Gosh, you know what? I'm going to answer the way I should be answering it on the date that this is supposed to air. It is amazing, and it is an absolute dream come true to work with an organization that I have admired from afar for a long time. And now just to be a part of this show, be a part of this production, and bring this level of energy to all these fans and spread the gospel of the Bananas is fantastic.
All right. So before we get into the Bananas, you do a lot of work sort of outside of baseball as well. So you're definitely the first person with these credentials that I've had on my podcast. What is it that you do out there in the world of MMA and wrestling?
So I began as a lowly professional wrestling ring announcer. That is where my journey in sports began. That of all the sports, if I'm being perfectly 100% honest, that's my favorite. I grew up in a house where my parents didn't have a particular affinity for sports, at least in the sense we never really watched any or followed it. The closest maybe was baseball, because my grandfather, who we were pretty close with, was a huge Mets fan. So I at least had that influence, and the Mets won the World Series the year I was born. And there's pictures of me watching it with my father as like a 7-8 month old, whatever I was in October of '86. But I came to love wrestling in 1997 or so, 96, 97, which was kind of the peak of wrestling being the coolest thing in the world. And I fell in love, and my love for it never ceased. I was a backyard wrestler when I was a 13, 14-year-old. So that was the highlights of me in a ring, which was a trampoline at the time. Don't try this at home, kids. So from backyard wrestling, the road gets off track and is non-sports related for quite some time. But eventually, after I had already started working in entertainment as a live trivia host, people had really started telling me, hey, your voice is great. You sound like you work. They would ask me if I worked for the Tortugas or the former Daytona Cubs, which just because I worked in the area. And the answer was always no, no, no. And eventually I said, well, why not? And wrestling was kind of what I had in mind. And there was a local promotion, and I reached out to them, and they were looking for a ring announcer, and they decided they wanted to try me out. And I showed up, and they said, wow, you are actually really good. Can you keep coming back? And so for 4 years in multiple sports, I keep coming back.
That's fantastic. And so, you're involved obviously as a regular with the Daytona Tortugas. What are the crossovers in your mind between minor league baseball and the world of wrestling?
Entertainment. it's all about entertainment. It's all about engaging fans. It's all about making sure people have a good time. And so there's quite a bit of crossover. There's also maybe other crossovers from behind the curtain standpoint for both, but I don't want to shed too much light on what makes the show so special. But I used to look at these things, all the different sports I do. I've worked in arena football. I work in MMA, boxing, minor league baseball. And then they hired me to do the same thing for live painting competitions. And so I look at it all as the same thing. It's an opportunity to have fun and engage an audience. And it's just a blast. There's a lot of similarities, believe it or not.
So this Banana Ball World Tour is wildly popular. It's selling out every time they announce dates. It's selling out. You can't get tickets to it. How did you get involved with this Banana Ball World Tour?
I got a chance to go and see their show and actually be a part of it a little bit last summer. And I was blown away. And as someone who's working in entertainment and in sports, and like, there's no path or training or school for what I'm doing. I don't even know what it is. It feels like you're on an unpaved road in the middle of the woods and you're just trying to turn it into something usable. I quickly spotted the Bananas for what they were. They were the leaders in whatever it is that I'm doing. And so I sought them out. I actually, because I know how Jesse likes to do business, I bought his book. I listened to most of the episodes of his podcast. I follow all of his emails and his 1-minute boosts every Monday morning. I've learned a lot, but I knew that I wanted to learn more firsthand as part of the production. And so actually, I'm a big believer in when you have an inspired thought, act upon it. And I was with my wife in Target, I think in late November, and they were just starting to put out some of the Christmas ornaments and all that. And there was a banana and it was flat. It was relatively flat ornament. And I grabbed it and I said, I need this. I know what I'm going to do with it too. And I had this idea because I knew in my mind I wanted to do something with them. So I grabbed it and I set out to film a video. So I put a QR code together, filmed a video pitching me just being a part of their tour. I wrote a poem. I had a guy who plays violin out in public. I hired him to help play sad violin music behind me. It's a pretty wild goose chase. So I mailed this card to them saying, thank you for having me out earlier. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. Here's a banana ornament. And then sent this QR code because I know what they look for people to stand out. So it kind of made me kind of flex creatively. And I reached out to them and initially they were like, well, we already have hosts. And I said, I don't want to be the show's not about me. I want to learn. I will sell popcorn for you if that's what it takes to just learn and just be a part of what you're doing. And Jesse said, you're not going to sell popcorn. That's not what you're going to do. That's not, but if you think you have some ideas that maybe could contribute to the overall scope of the show, let's set up some time with our director of entertainment, Zach, and let's talk about it. So I came up with a great pitch and they stopped me halfway through it and were like, it's so funny, but we literally thought of that a month ago. We're already doing it. What else do you have? And I was like, oh no, that's all I had. That was my one big shot in the universe. I'm cooked. Yeah. But they said, you know what? Listen, go back to the drawing board, come up with 10 ideas and let's meet soon and pitch it. So I really sat and thought, and I came up with some crazy stuff that is wrestling oriented. That's all I'll tell you. If you've been to the show already at this point, then you've seen what we're talking about, but it was enough for them to consider me as a valuable asset, as a moving part in the cast of characters that make up this tremendous show, this tremendous production. And by God, since I'm recording this in the past and it's now the present, I hope I'm killing it. And I hope that we are having a great time in front of these sold out crowds.
I have no doubt. That that's how it's going down right now. I wish I were out there on the tour with you, right? Because this Banana Ball sounds like, loads of fun in terms of the actual game that's being played. So was there something about the actual brand, this logo that Dan Simon created, the quote unquote badass banana that we've been talking about on this podcast? Was there something about the brand itself that attracted you?
Oh, for sure. Because I am a huge fan of all the wild brands and identities of all of these minor league baseball teams. And I initially thought that the Bananas were just another minor league team and they just have a really cool banana logo. I was like, Savannah Bananas, it's brilliant. That's awesome. But not only do they have a kick-ass banana logo, they are a kick-ass banana team. And it's a whole different kind of operation than anything else I've ever seen before. And I personally have hosted over 1,000 events. And just from my one experience going to a regular baseball game of theirs, so not even banana ball last year, I knew that this was something beyond special. And you take that logo and all the different variations of it, and especially the one when you slap it on their Dolce and Banana underwear, which I do own a pair, and I am proud to say that, admit it on this podcast. It is a beautiful, wonderful thing. Usually before I put it on, not so much after.
All right. They do have so many great products, right? Like, and it's, it's really been sort of fun to see everything that they've been developing there. And, and then, like, as I mentioned, you have a regular gig with the Daytona Tortugas, also a Dan Simon logo. And one of the logos that I have often just pointed to and said, hey, that's one of my favorites. With your involvement with these teams and these awesome, fun logos, but maybe things that not everyone in the sort of mainstream is familiar with, do you find yourself out there in the world having to explain, when people say, hey, what are you doing out here on the road, or who are you traveling with, or what's this team or whatever? How hard do you have to work to explain what these teams are to folks?
Not at all, because you're catching me in a relatively dressed down mode right now. If you see in the periphery of this camera right now, there's a lot of color behind me.
Yes. And
so I present outwardly just normally as an outrageous character. And usually that kind of is like, so what do you do? And as soon as I kind of start in, give them the brief elevator speech version of it, people get it. And they're like, that's super cool. Like, tell me a little bit more. So there's not a ton of explaining. The fact that I walk out of the house the way I usually do kind of already kind of primes people for having some kind of strange conversation. So having kick-ass logos and cool brands and stuff to talk about that I'm affiliated with just kind of goes hand in hand with how I try to kind of live every single day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking about the work that you do, or the life that you live every single day, I did want to ask you, because I know that in your day job, you're a high school teacher.
That's correct. I'm a former college professor, so I used to be young and a professor.
So you used to be young and a professor. So how does working with professional wrestlers and MMA fighters and, late teen to early 20 baseball players, how does that measure up to having to control a classroom full of teenage high schoolers?
It's equally crazy. Equal amount of management. No one pays attention. You kind of have to always kind of be ready for whatever's coming your way, be ready to anticipate all the problems and still make the show run on time and get everybody in the places they need to be and move things along for the betterment of the entire group. That there are a lot of similarities, a lot of hand holding probably in both. Some places more than others, but there's more parallels, I think, in entertainment and education than most people would realize.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. And what subject do you teach?
So I'm a social studies teacher. So right now I teach history. I teach world history, which I really love. And I never thought that I did. I thought I was an American history guy, but I really dig world history. And I also teach psychology, and I teach a couple of different psychology classes. That's what my bachelor's degree was in. And when I was a college professor, I used to teach sports medicine and exercise programs, which my master's degree was in kinesiology with a focus in sports psychology. So I've taught a little bit of everything.
I would say that you are one of the most well-rounded guests I've had on this podcast, for sure. So
I appreciate it.
Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure to discover you on Twitter and to follow the work that you've been doing. Looking forward to seeing how this tour goes and following everything that you have going on there. Where can people find you on the socials?
I wish I had a little more synergy and all the different handles. So I will say that if you search The Young Professor, you will find me. But on Instagram, it's at MG The Young Professor. And on Twitter, it's at Young Professor G. And I do have The Young Professor on Facebook. And I'm pretty active across all those platforms.
Fantastic. Well, this has been so much fun. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you reaching out. And I'm glad we found each other online. And look forward to following you in this tour. And obviously, I will definitely have you on again in the near future.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. And it's an honor to be a guest on the same episode as our fellow guests, as Dan Simon and Jesse Cole, guys I really look up to. So this has been an absolute pleasure and a privilege. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Baseball by Design.